Hello everyone. I apologise for the lack of any fancy animations or anything here, but I decided I wanted to do something for Monster Week, which is a wonderful thing put together by Ginny D and Pointy Hat, where each year they kind of focus a week for the TTRPG community to make videos about a topic. Today's topic is this year's topic is dragons, so I wanted to make a video about that. A lot of topics have already been covered: how to use them in combat, what to do when a dragon dies, how to use them narratively. So I instead wanted to just put out a small video about how I treat dragons in my world building, and seeing if potentially there's anything there that might be of use for your own campaigns, to take bits that sound of interest and might be useful. So for me, the reason I made it this way, to kind of set the mission statement for why I world builded the way I did for these dragons, the key goal was to explain why dragons are on many different settings, come in many different forms, but of the same time they also don't always come with the same mythology, they don't always come with the same gods. And so explaining that in our world building. So how I treat the myth of dragons is, the story starts with a single god. The name of this god has been forgotten, for the only way to kill a god is to ensure that its name is erased from all memory, all records, or songs, or tales, that nothing remains. But this god made a world, and on this world made a series of dragons. First was the daughter Manzat, with feathered wings, all the colours of the rainbow. She flies eternally in the skies above. Then came Kavutha, whose brood looked to the plains. Their brood was a pair of wings for their forearms and a pair of legs to better catch their prey or to rest to sleep. Then came Enki. His brood took to the deep earth, 4 mighty legs to help them tunnel and navigate the underground with vestigial wings, remnants of their airborne kin, as they explored and as they dug metal, earth, rock, stone, and gems, embedded themselves into the skin of this brood. And then came the water-based children. There was Absu, whose children were much more serpentine, and their job was to look after the rivers, the waterways, and as their scales, it is said, scraped against the edges of the riverbanks, the metallic ores that coated these riverbanks did embed themselves in their scales, granting them a metallic sheen. Then there were the twins Tiamat and Namu. They are bound to the oceans. Namu is bound to the deepest oceans. the bright, multicoloured lights of her bioluminescence of her and her brood tend the deep oceans. Tiamat's children looked to the water cycle. So, those that will become black dragons use their acid breath to tend to the acidity of the water to help break down large, decaying animals so that their nutrients would pass down more easily to the deeper water for the life that flourished there. Those that would become red dragons tended to the volcanic vents and helped raise land out of the ocean. Those who would become blue dragons helped take the water from the sea to the sky and across to the mountains where it would become precipitation. Those that would become white dragons looked to the glaciers and the mountain peaks to help regulate permafrost and glacier growth, but also the defrosting of these to help contribute to the fresh waterways. And green dragons would, those that would become green dragons, sit where the fresh water joins into the salt water of the oceans, into the marshlands and the estuaries, and looks to them. And the reason they have coloured scales as they do is Tiamat loved her elder sister Manzat greatly, and Manzat gifted her children, Tiamat's children, with their multicoloured scales, coating them with the colours of her rainbow feathers. And the god of the dragons then made the dragonborn to help tend to the land, and the kobolds to help tend to the deep places, to reach the areas that their larger kin could not reach. And humans and orcs and dwarves and halflings did appear as they do on all worlds, helping to tend to the natural world, helping to join in the communities that were forming in this place. And all was peaceful, and all was good, until the sky burned with fire, and from the sky came great meteors, and knights the size of giants, in suits of armour that allowed them to fight the dragons in the skies, on the land and in the water. And these forces that had crossed the sea of stars to take this world called upon eldritch forces to aid them, corrupted the minds of the non-Draconic peoples, and helped turn them into an army to fight the dragons. Namu would be injured, Manzat nearly killed, and as the god of dragons fought the eldritch god of the invaders, did he tell his children to flee? And so they collected their eggs of their broods. They collected what dragonborn, what kobolds, what humans and orcs and dwarves and halflings they could, and took to the skies, took to the sea of stars, to find new homes. Sometimes eggs would be dropped, especially by Namu, who was badly injured. And these eggs would sail through the stars. Some would fall into stars and make stellar dragons. Some would land on the moon to become moonstone dragons. Some would be affected by the forces of gravity, such as from black holes or radiation from a quasar or a pulsar, and would become stellar dragons. Some of these eggs would fall into the elemental planes to become the elemental dragons. Some would fall into the heavenly planes or the diabolic planes. Others would land in the material worlds, the material plane, and the entities that come out may be dragons, or would in some cases regress into lesser draconic types such as wyverns, pseudo-dragons, and specifically from the eggs of Namu would come the hydras and the sea serpents. And in time, these primogenitors would find homes to place their eggs, to place those they carried, and their broods would continue to live on in other worlds. And such is the way of godhood and faith that as these primogenitors carried their broods and helped start them on new worlds, did they attain the ranks of godhood in the Draconic pantheon. But the interesting thing about dragons is dragons adapt to their environment, which is why you have things like fairy dragons and elemental dragons and dragons of death, dragons of dreams. You also have where a dragon has aged past being ancient, past being a great wyrm. They achieve a rank known as Exalted, or a paragon of dragonhood, and in this form does their physicality change. They no longer resemble the broods they once were. They become something more unique. Their appearance and their abilities better reflecting the environment that they've grown up in, their experiences in their life, and the nature of them as an individual. And should they have their own brood, they themselves become primogenitors and have the chance of ascending to godhood, and in making their own broods based off their own nature. So yeah, that's my little bit of dragon world building. No, it isn't the longest video. It was a bit of a struggle to get this out in time, hence why it's a bit short. In the description, I am also going to include a link to our Ko-Fi and a PDF. I have been designing a system for D&D 5e based off the dragon shouts from Skyrim. It will be a little bit of a living document for a while, as my intent is to add more shouts, and I'm not sure by the time you get this video how many I will have finished, but I will publish those that I have finished, and I will ensure that it gets updated with the rest as and when I'm able to finish. So yeah, hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully there was something that you might find useful, interesting, that you might want to take for your own games and your own concept. I love dragons so much. If you want me to read a book, play a game, or watch a show, the easiest way is to say there are dragons. And so to me, having a mythology that could allow me to bring all these different kinds of dragons and explain them away, how they could coexist within a setting, was very key. So yeah, I'd like to thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching. And yeah, see you in the next video.